Welcome to Military News Channel. The situation in Europe is escalating. The tension is very high. Today, President Biden and British Prime Minister Boris Johnson stated that Russia can invade Ukraine at any time. Russian Federation Defense Minister Lavrov announced that Russia will not attempt any attack unless it sees a threat on its borders. But earlier this week the meeting between France and Russia was partially inconclusive, and then on Thursday the meeting of the Ukrainian and Russian envoys resulted in a big dead end. As a last-minute development, thousands of soldiers and military equipment, armored vehicles and warplanes arrived in Belarus from Russia this week. Also, Belarus claimed that a Ukrainian aircraft invaded Belarusian airspace. Belarusian military officials stated that their air defense systems shot down the Ukrainian aircraft. Ukraine denied the accusations. In the incident that took place in the military camp of the Russian troops who came to Belarus, the unidentified drone was easily spotted and then shot down, possibly by electronic warfare systems that Russia sent to Belarus a few days ago. These reports were shared by the Belarusian official military news agency. After analyzing the onboard equipment data, it was determined that the drone was launched from the territory of Ukraine to conduct illegal reconnaissance activities on the Brestsky military training ground. Belarusian President Lukashenko made harsh statements against Ukraine about Ukraine's drone incident. "If they go further in Ukraine provocations, we will act more harshly," he said. Lukashenko warned. On February 3, the Belarusian Ministry of Foreign Affairs summoned the Ukrainian ambassador extraordinary and plenipotentiary to Belarus, Igor Kizym, to voice a strong protest against the deliberate launch of an unmanned aerial vehicle from Ukraine to the territory of Belarus. The Ukrainian side was told that these unfriendly actions had deliberately provoked an escalation of tensions in the region that were not conducive to civilized bilateral dialogue. The Belarusian side demanded that there should be no such destructive actions in the future, he said. A Russian-backed separatist leader in eastern Ukraine said Monday that a large-scale war could break out there at any time and his forces may have to turn to Moscow for support. Denis Pushilin, head of the departed Donetsk People's Republic, said that while it would be insanity to adopt such a conflict, the probability of a war with great losses is high. "We trust ourselves first, but we also do not rule out that if Ukraine crosses a certain line with the support of Western countries, we will have to turn to Russia," he told Reuters. According to the Kiev government, about 15,000 people have been killed in clashes between Russian-backed separatists and the Ukrainian army since 2014. Tensions have risen sharply since November, when Russia began massing a force of more than 100,000 troops on Ukraine's borders, raising fears of a much larger war despite Moscow's insistence that there was no invasion plan. Pushilin said the separatists had gaps in their weapons when it comes to electronic warfare, air defense and the Ukrainian military's ability to counter Turkish-made drones. He said they were not in contact with Russia on the supply of weapons, but noted an important statement in the Russian parliament last month by a ruling party politician that Moscow should provide certain types of weapons to separatists in Donetsk and neighboring Luhansk. In a second Reuters interview, Alexander Khodorkovsky, an influential commander in the separatist region, urged Russia to send 30,000 troops to support the separatists and operate new weapons systems that Moscow hopes will provide. Read more. Russia says the Ukrainian conflict is a civil war with no involvement, but senior Ukrainian government sources say Russia has deployed a military force of about 2,000 to support an estimated 35,000 separatists in the eastern Donbas region. Russian forces have been waging war in the Donbas for 8 years, said Oleg Nikolenko, spokesman for the Ukrainian Foreign Ministry. When asked whether it is possible or desirable for Russia to recognize its separatist territory as an independent state, as some deputies in the Russian parliament have called President Vladimir Putin to this, Pushilin refused to give a clear answer. He said it would be selfish to focus only on separatist areas and ignore the interests of ethnic Russians in other parts of Ukraine. Without providing evidence, he said there was a constant threat of military action on the Ukrainian side and clear signs of active preparations. Ukraine has repeatedly denied accusations that Russia is planning to retake the separatist areas by force. Accusing the West of making the situation worse, Pushilin said, "I'm even talking about some kind of great war. I want to avoid it because this war may be the last war for humanity." He criticized the naive statements by U.S. officials that the timing of any conflict would be affected by whether or not the ground was frozen. Everything can start at any time, regardless of the weather conditions. Sometimes adverse weather conditions can be a good cover to launch an attack.